year, Scotland celebrates its Viking heritage. They were a proud and fierce people, and those traits can still be seen in the Scottish people and their nation's fight for independence. They're now on the verge of a new political battle which could reshape the Scottish identity. Scotland voted 62 to 38% to remain in the EU in last year's Brexit vote. Now a referendum of a different kind could be back on the table in Edinburgh. It would give Scots the choice of breaking away from the UK and staying in the EU. A 2014 referendum on independence was 10% shy of making Scotland a sovereign state. The Scottish Parliament has reopened the door for another independence vote to take place by early 2019.
Scotland's future should be in Scotland's hands.
But the British government will have to give the final approval for any referendum. And with Brexit negotiations underway, it's not the top priority.
Now is the time when we should be pulling together, not hanging apart, pulling together to ensure we get the best possible deal for the whole of the UK, including the people of Scotland.
If the referendum does go ahead and Scotland chooses independence, these are just 3 of the crucial roadblocks. The country is home to one of the UK Navy's 3 main operating bases and its fleet of Trident nuclear submarines. It's controversial, but it's also a big employer. Then there's the issue of whether Scotland would be able to hold on to all of the wealth from the remaining offshore oil reserves and the revenue it could generate from Scottish waters. And finally, the question about whether an independent Scotland would actually be able to become a part of the European single market, because right now there are no guarantees from the EU that it would. But will the reality of Brexit be enough of a catalyst to divide the United Kingdom? Natalie Pohanen, The Newsmakers.
To discuss this, let's bring back in SNP parliamentarian James Dornan and from the EU's capital, Brussels, David Coburn. He's a Scottish member of the European Parliament and the leader of UKIP in Scotland, which is happy about Brexit but opposed to Scottish independence. We've got about 5.5 minutes with 2 Scots who disagree with each other over this. Let's start with David. David, I'm assuming you feel that Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP are just annoying you, trolling you, and are being opportunistic. Are they being opportunistic here?
They're being opportunistic and they're destroying Scottish jobs and destroying the Scottish economy. The Scots voted overwhelmingly to remain part of the United Kingdom, and they didn't vote very enthusiastically for the European Union. 40% disagreed with being in the European Union. More Scots voted to remain in the UK than to remain in the EU. So quite frankly, Scotland is not interested in this. Sturgeon lost her majority in the Parliament. She has no mandate to have a referendum. We were told it was once in a lifetime. I fought with her over this last referendum, and I'll be fighting in the next one if she has one. But quite frankly, she has no right to do so. It is for Westminster to decide that, for Scottish members of Parliament in Westminster, English members of Parliament in Westminster, Welsh and Irish members of Parliament in Westminster to make that decision, not the Scottish Parliament. She's out with her remit. And quite frankly, so all she's doing is destroying jobs.
We know where you
she has no ability to get into the European Union. President Schultz said it was impossible.
Sure. James, you're destroying Scottish jobs. That ship has sailed. You had a vote in 2014. You lost. Move on and get with the times.
We had a vote in 2014. We then had a general election in 2015 where 56 out of 59 Scottish MPs were from the Scottish National Party, which makes independence its core belief. We then had a Scottish election in 2016 where 47% of the people voted for the SNP, knowing fine well that if we were dragged out of the European Union against the will of the people of Scotland, despite the ludicrous comments that David Coburn just made about 45% being a minuscule number, but the 40% that voted no in the European referendum being really, really important. It's just absolute nonsense. The people of Scotland have made it clear that they support the SNP. They've made it clear that they understand what the SNP said in their manifesto, and we have got the right and the mandate to ask for this referendum. And all this talk about David Coburn talking about Westminster, Westminster must say, Westminster must say,
this is interesting, yes.
He makes our their
That's
to
interesting.
make their case
Let's ask
for us.
David. Let me pose that to David. David, the same way the pro-Brexit people in the UK spoke about Brussels being out of touch, not listening to people, this is how these guys see London and Westminster. They're saying they're out of touch. Why should they make the decisions for us? We want to decide for ourselves. It's a similar philosophy, isn't it, David?
No, they didn't. They voted to remain part of the UK. How he can come up with that is absolute twaddle. We did not vote to separate from the rest of the United Kingdom. It's absolute nonsense.
Why don't you put it to the test, David?
Havers, laddie.
We also
havers.
didn't vote to be in the EU. We didn't vote to leave the EU.
Yes,
and,
but
you know,
40% of us didn't vote for it. 40% were against
David, let me ask
it.
you.
Yes,
That is a
45%,
sizable
James,
number
James,
of
if you give me a
people.
second.
of us voted to leave the
James,
UK.
give me a second, please. David, why don't you put it to the test?
40%
If you're
voted
that
against,
confident,
10%
David.
less than half.
David, if you're that confident, why aren't you willing to put it to the test next year or the year after? Have another vote. If they lose, then surely it's done and dusted. They're dead and buried, and they won't have another vote in their lifetimes.
Because Scotland needs jobs. All this economic uncertainty will destroy industry in Scotland, jobs in Scotland. Scots need jobs. The Scottish nationalists have got a 15 billion deficit, and it is destroying Scotland. If we were to go into the European Union with a $15 billion deficit created by the SNP, we would be treated like Greece. The First Minister goes on about, having to cut back on this, cut back on the rest of it. There would be absolute mayhem in Scotland. The European Union would have to take over the country as they did in Greece, and you'd have massive recession. You'd have people getting their jobs lost. You would have cuts all over the place. It's absolute nonsense. It would be austerity max. She's always
Just
banging on about
behave.
austerity. She'd
Just
have austerity
behave.
max.
Okay.
She has no understanding of economics. It's sturgeonomics, which is made out of pure ground.
Let's get James's
unicorn
response.
horn.
James, you guys don't understand economics. It's
Right.
sturgeonomics. You're playing with the economy. When you should be focusing on jobs, you're playing with the economy by calling for another referendum. What's your response?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, David keeps on talking about people havering, and then he comes out with a contribution like that. What he doesn't mention is that this 15 billion deficit that people keep on talking about, it's not a deficit that has grown under the SNP
deficit.
It's a deficit that has, if it exists, if it exists, it's a deficit that has grown under the Union. It's not Scotland. It's not Scottish government.
Well, no, it was 7 billion
over the
actually
economy.
before, and you got up to
it's-
15 billion actually.
And the UK owns,
At the time of the referendum, it was 7 billion.
David, give him
Now
a
it's
chance.
15 billion.
David, give him a chance. Let him make his
Behave
point.
yourself, David. You know, honestly, interrupting is not an argument. The whole thing is about the people of
Now there's
Scotland,
a
the
nonsense you're
democratic right
talking.
of the people of Scotland to make their decision. Oh, dearie me. The people
Well,
of
they made
Scotland
it.
should have
They
the
made-
right
they
to
voted
make
to
their
stay in the
decision.
UK.
But I can understand why, David. I can understand
They voted
why
to stay in the UK.
And then since
You
then,
don't
we've had
understand
two
democracy,
elections,
so
two
you're
general
against
elections,
it.
one in Westminster, one in Scotland.
James, finish your point. David, please give the man 20
Can we
seconds.
put a muzzle on that? Yes. Please. It's a democratic decision with two elections since then. It's a decision for the people of Scotland to make, and the arguments that David Coburn makes highlights why they have got no parliamentary representation anywhere in the UK except for in the European Parliament, the one that they're so desperate to close down.
We are out of time, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure talking to you. David Coburn, James Dornan, and of course earlier Robert Halls and Richard Whitman.
It's John.